greetings. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying not to be too loud. As you can see, I am in the beautiful Stella Island resort in Crete. I've been here a week. This is our 7th day, so we arrived last Sunday, and now a week later, and I've got to be honest, we're really loving it. You can see the beautiful background. This is set up on, we have got a premium pool view room with swim up, so we've got this platform that I'm on at the moment, which we've got some beds and bits and pieces, and then behind me is our room. But you've got some really beautiful room choices here, and I'll come on to that shortly. So anyway, thank you for joining me in sunny Crete. I think there are very few clouds in the sky, if there are any, and I hope you don't mind. It's 6 o'clock here, so I'm enjoying an Aperol Spritz. So cheers to you. Okay, so let me talk a bit about what has been happening. So we left the UK 7 days ago, but before I get onto that, let's talk about the preparation for coming to Greece. Now, as with many countries, there are restrictions in place. So you do have to follow certain guidelines before you get on that flight. And for Greece specifically, which Crete is part of, you have to fill in a form at least 24 hours before you go. Now, this form was released about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and it was a complete nightmare. Lots and lots of people having difficulties filling it in. I must admit, Brian and I did it this time, and it was very, very easy. All it's asking is if you've had any symptoms, it asks for your passport details and where you're staying. It's as simple as that. And what happens then is at 12 o'clock, so it's about 10 o'clock our time, 12 o'clock Greek time, you will get an email to the registered email address, basically giving you a barcode. And that barcode is essential, or QR code should I say, is essential because they'll ask for that at check-in, and they'll also ask for it when you actually arrive in Greece. Now, you only need to do one per household. I know several people have done more than that because they were a bit worried. But it's just the lead passenger, and then you just put the names of the other passengers in there. So that's the first thing. So regardless of where you're going, it's essential that you remain up to date with the entry requirements. And some of people require you've got to do tests, particularly if you're going out to the Caribbean. There is all sorts of things that are going on, so don't fall foul of that, because we've heard that people do, and also these are changing all of the time, with some measures getting stricter and some becoming more relaxed. Okay, so we got our forms in, we got our QR code, and we headed off to the airport. Now, we departed from Manchester, not my favourite airport. Birmingham's much easier for us, and then East Midlands, but just due to load availability, we ended up going for Manchester. But it was absolutely fine. We booked meet and greet. This is my personal favourite because we literally just roll up at the airport. Very different at Manchester because we went through like a car park barrier, and it stops your car, and it says we're scanning your car for damage and recording the condition of it. So we kind of sat in the car for 30 seconds. It scanned the car, a gate went up, and basically said just park in the next available lane. So you pull into a lane, and then you get out of your car and then drop off the keys, and then off you go. And the way the keys are returned to you is you're given another barcode, and then there is a lockbox when you return. So it's very, very minimal contact. So that was really, really smooth. Now, normally at the airport, we always like to pay for a lounge. Now, I didn't this time because I wanted just to really spend a bit of time in the terminal to see what was going on. Now, there are more limited services in the terminal than normal, and this is due to COVID, but not due to COVID in terms of health and safety, more to do with commercial imperatives. Like, for example, certain shops aren't open because they don't want or don't have the staff to do it, but a lot were open. Duty free was open. Disappointing for Brian because I do always like a few duty-free goods to come away with, or tax-free in this case. So that was open, and so was WH Smith, so we got magazines and books and such like. But also, rather than going to the lounge, we went to Crete, and we had some breakfast, and we also got a few bits and pieces to take onto the flight as well. So that was all perfectly fine. Now, in terms of wearing masks, you are wearing them throughout the whole of the airport. So as soon as we got out of the car from the meet and greet, we were wearing our masks and kept them on. And then you're wearing them all through the terminal. The only exception is when you go into a cafe, so with Pret, you don't have to wear them. So we were in there a good hour. You know, we enjoyed coffees, and we had like a light breakfast and got some bits and pieces for lunch. So you don't have to wear it there. So if you're not great at wearing masks and it really bothers you, then that's the option, is to just go and have a coffee somewhere and kind of linger over it. I'm sure you can imagine is that the airport was very quiet. At Manchester Road at the moment, only Terminal 1 and 3, excuse me, only Terminals 1 and 3 are open at the moment, so it's important that you check where you're going from. We were going from Terminal 1. As I said, pretty quiet there, everyone wearing masks, few shops open, but all fine. And then what we did then, we boarded our flight. What they're doing now is we always try and sit in the front row. Now, we had a bit of a discussion about this, because that's always a worry, because you've got a lot of people going to and through and past you. But the way they board the plane now is from the rear, so we were the last people to board. But what I will say to you before going for that front row, we always have extra leg room as well. This is where the toilet is, so a lot of people congregate there. So you need to think that through. You're probably better with extra leg room seats going towards the middle of the plane, but I can show you that if you're, I mean, obviously this depends what flight you're on, but that is, you need to kind of think about where people are congregating, and that kind of, it was a little bit of an eye-opener to us. So okay, very smooth flight, good compliance on the flight with mask wearing, but again, if you're drinking and eating, you don't have to wear them, and it's quite clear a lot of people did a lot of drinking and eating to restrict that. The staff are very good, normal cabin service, food and drinks. We chose to take our food with us from Crete just because I'm not so keen on the aircraft food on Jet 2, but then I'm not on any, so that's why. But there was a full cart service, and you could pre-order or just have drinks and snacks as you purchase them. Full duty free as well, so pretty much normal except for the mask wearing. On the other side, we had a good journey. On the other side, slight hiccup when we got to Heraklion Airport to do with luggage handling, nothing to do with us, that was to do with the airport. There was a bit of a delay there, but you know, besides that, it was all pretty efficient. And then we had a private car service. Again, I always recommend that for my clients, particularly now with COVID. You know, it's much easier to manage social distancing. We didn't have to wear masks in the car, but we did have to, up until getting in the car. You could take them off when you were in there. But yeah, the great thing about where we're staying in Stella Island, it is less than 30 minutes. Literally, it took about 20 minutes to get here, which for me is a huge incentive. The flight's about just over 4.5 hours. And then, you know, down on the other side, we were through the airport relatively quickly. And I said, then we were in a car and we were here within 30 minutes. So that was great. I can see why a lot of people do this for a long weekend. There's a lot of people we've met here who are just here for like maybe 4, maybe 5 days. Okay, so I'm in Stella Island, which is, the phone is going now in our, I'll let Brian get that. I'll leave that to my trusted assistant. We are staying in Stella Island. Now, this is a relatively new hotel. It is roughly 4 years old. It is very modern and it is beautiful in terms of its landscapes. You've got some really good room choices. As I said, we're in a premium swim up, which means that we've got this platform with our own sunbeds and bits and pieces. We've got a room above us, but you've also got these bungalows which don't have anyone above them, and also they're big ticket rooms which are called grand bungalows. But I'd want to have a chat with anyone before you book one of those, because they're not hugely private. They're sort of portraying them as if they're kind of like Maldivian, but they're not really. They might be in terms of design, but in terms of privacy, it's almost zero, because they look in on one another. And what you've got to remember here, this resort is not on the sea. The sea is sort of over that way, and we can, you know, it's easy to access, but it's not built on the sea. It's built all looking inwards. Okay, so it's all built around these island of pools. It's very different from anywhere else I've stayed before in that regard. But what I had the pleasure of going to see today is their pool villa room. Now, this isn't their biggest ticket room. It's probably the grand villas are the first, and the bungalows and the private pool villas would be the next under that. I personally really loved the private pool villa. Very sizable pool. You could definitely get some exercise in it. Decent size room, bath and separate shower. We don't have a bath in our room. We just have a separate shower, which is lovely, but it is quite nice to relax in a tub. They had these big marble baths, which was beautiful. The only thing about those individual pool rooms, if you had any mobility issues at all, they are highly not recommended, because you've got to access them. They're sort of down sort of 4 or 5 sort of fairly steep steps. And if you'll see from the pictures, the bed is on the platform. You've had a few too many Aperol spritz, and I just worry that you're going to topple off that night. But you know, you get off. So that's just worth bearing in mind. But I would definitely, if I came back, stay there. If you wanted privacy, where we are, we've got people around us, and to be honest, that's quite nice and lovely to have a chat. Okay, so to the resort now. The way we're here on all-inclusive, you don't have to do all-inclusive, but I would highly recommend it. So in terms of all-inclusive breakfast, we've got 2 or 3 options for breakfast, all buffet. Nice buffet, good choices, really, really good fruit. We're absolutely loving that. Lots of nuts and yogurts and such like, you know, the omelette station, pancakes. But also, one thing we've struggled a bit here with is the quality of the bread. It is just too good. We're eating way too much of it. It's all baked here, and they've got a proper pastry chef, which I think is unusual in a hotel with all-inclusive, because the quality of the desserts are excellent. And I'm just not a dessert person, but I've been having at least one a day. So we're here on all-inclusive, so we've got a couple of options for your buffet breakfast. We go to the smaller restaurant, and then predominantly we sit outside. And then at lunch, again, you've got the option for the buffet. We've never been to the buffet for lunch. We've always gone to the a la carte restaurant or to the bar, and it's pretty much the same menu throughout all of the bars and restaurants for lunch. Lots of beautiful salads. The leaves are just lovely. Tomatoes are delicious. Lots of feta cheeses, Caesar salads. Also, sort of Brian's been having lots of pita breads with chicken, or he had one with meatballs. Also the pizzas. The pizza for me wasn't the most amazing one I've had, but it was still good. But the salads are really, really good. And then for dinner, you've got the main buffet restaurant again, but you also, if you're here for a week, get to go in the you get to go in the a la carte restaurants, and there are 4 of those. We've now, as of yesterday, been to all 4, and they are excellent. Okay, you've got Oceana, which is a fish restaurant. We went there on my birthday. Beautiful meal, and we're in there again tonight, and I'm going to be having the lobster pasta, because that has just been recommended by so many people. But last time I had sea bream, which was the fish of the day. They will come and fillet and bone it, which is lovely. It was truly delicious, and again, just fabulous dessert. So that's Oceana. We've got Usami, which is an Asian restaurant. Brian loved that. He had his chicken satay, he had his spring rolls, and then we had sort of noodles and bits and pieces. Again, absolutely stunning. But last night we went to Vajira, which is their Cretan restaurant. So it's the most different meal that we've had here. I don't know quite how to describe it, but anyway, it was traditional. And on a Saturday night, they have traditional Cretan entertainment. So we had dancers and singers and such like. That was just really nice and really good fun. All the restaurants practice really safe and good distancing. You know, all the tables are cleansed before you get to them, all spaced out. All the serving staff are wearing masks. Just to say, in the buffet restaurant, they say you don't have to wear masks, but they encourage you if you would like to. But you do have to sanitize and wear gloves. But that's kind of the only real difference that you would notice. So what have I said? Oceana, Usami, which is the Asian Cretan, and the Cretan, and we have what they're billing as like a steakhouse. I wouldn't necessarily call it that, because again, I had fish there and it was fabulous. So you've got 4 really strong choices, and they're very different also in design internally. So it's like a proper dining experience. It does feel like you're going out to separate and different restaurants, and I think that's a nice experience. We're here for 10 nights, so we've had, I think we could have had 7 or 8 of the restaurants in that time. So we've done a few buffets, but most of it has been a la carte. And I've got to be honest, I've really enjoyed the food. Now, we're on all-inclusive, so we get our drinks as well. Now, for me, perhaps this is a slightly weaker offer. In terms of wines, there's kind of a couple of local wines that are offered, which, to be fair, are okay. If you're a connoisseur of wines, it's just not going to work for you, so you'd have to look at a more extensive list. But even then, I was talking to a gent earlier who likes his wine. He said even that list really didn't float his boat either. So if wine is a real deal breaker for you, this is not going to be the resort for you. There's cocktails, We've been having Aperol spritz, gin and tonics, all the standards. I haven't really seen top shelf brands, but the drinks we've had have been okay. Not the best I've had, but certainly not the worst. But again, if you're looking for sort of, a bar full of branded drinks, then again, this isn't the place for you. But I wouldn't let that put you off, because it certainly isn't disastrous in terms of that drinks offer. It's just possibly average. I'd certainly rate the food well above what I would rate the drink. So okay, looking at the resort, it's quite an interesting place. I would say predominantly when Brian travel, we tend to be amongst the younger people that were there. And I know that might seem a little bit surprising because we're no spring chickens ourselves, but that tends to be the way, and that's because we do a lot of particularly luxury cruising, and I guess that's probably an older demographic. We are by far in the oldest category here. The majority of people here, I would say, were in their 30s, possibly even younger than that. And conceptually, it's quite a difficult place to get your head around when you arrive. I just didn't know what to think when I got here, because everything is beautiful. But what happens is a lot of people just book to come in for a couple of nights and they just photograph themselves. It was most strange to me, but they're all Instagram influencers and they're photographing themselves, obviously for their pages, and they kind of like come and go. And once you get used to that, you kind of just sort of ignore it. We've seen full-on modelling shoots. I mean, it really is a poser's paradise. And initially I found that really irritating, but to be honest, they're incredibly polite about it. And to be fair, it's their job. They're here to promote themselves and promote the resort, and the resort is full. They're only allowed to, at the moment, go up to a maximum of 70% because they have to keep some allocation should there be a requirement for quarantine. That's just the law. So they are ram-jammed up to that. So they're obviously doing something very well in their marketing. As the week has gone on, perhaps the age demographic has got a little older, but there is just a real mix of people here. I would say roughly around 50%, maybe slightly more at the moment from the UK, but we've got nationalities, French in particular, Swiss, German, Dutch. So there is quite an eclectic mix, but people tend to keep themselves to themselves, I would say. This is where this resort really comes into its own. There's people taking photographs of themselves too, but they're very polite and very respectful for it. And the vibe is just really chilled. We've had the first week here, we ate and drank. We've been to the gym. They've got a very nice gym here as well, and they have classes, and we've been to classes as well. But the vibe is just really low-key, and that is managed very well. Because one of the kind of complaints I had from a client saying, the all-inclusive finishes at 11 at night, and people thought that was very early, but I actually think that's a masterstroke, because what happens is there is some evening entertainment which kind of varies from a sort of low-key DJ to sort of singers and such like. But with the all-inclusive finishing at 11, people tend to filter off. So you've had no real rowdiness. So I've slept really well, I've eaten really well. So in terms of a relaxation vibe, regardless of if you can afford to come, regardless of what age you are, I defy you not to enjoy it. For me, the biggest compromise is I love the beach. So I like a beach view and being able to kind of walk out. Now, we are really on the end of the beach here, but it's not the best beach in Crete at all. It's quite stony. So the hotel is not taking advantage of that. It's built here despite of that being there, if that makes any sense. So you can walk down, and we are connected to a couple of hotels, also in the Stella group, so Stella Village and Stella Palace. But to be fair, you can't see these unless you walk out and about. And again, as I said, if you want to just go to the end of the drive, and you can go to the beach, and the three of the hotels share a bathing area. So if you want to go in the sea, you can. It's just not the most stunning of seas, but it is an option. We're going further along the coast tomorrow to Alud, and one of the reasons I want to go there is because the beaches are stunning, and I'll report on those for you tomorrow. So the resort is adults only. Everything is very modern. The service is very good. It's a little bit shaky at times, but they really are working hard to please people and look after them. In terms of safety, I felt very safe here. It's quite clear that they take COVID very seriously, but in my opinion, they've struck a really good balance between taking it seriously, but also allowing you to relax and enjoy it. I didn't, as I said, quite know what to think when I first got here, but now a week in, we're absolutely loving it. We've only got another, we never, you know, we're here a week and we've got another 3 or 4 days, and I think we'll be sad to leave, and I would not be surprised if we come back, because I think, you know, if you know me, we were so stressed before we came away. I've had a really relaxing week so far, and I've really enjoyed it. So if you do get an opportunity to come to Crete, I would recommend it. Whilst we were here, a lot of people don't ever leave the hotel, and I get that. And I think a lot of people are nervous about doing that. But we hired electric bikes. They were absolutely fabulous. Not a cheap thing to do in any stretch of the imagination, but massive batteries on them. But Crete is very hilly. So we've been out in the last 5 days sort of doing anything between 20 and 40 kilometres. We've been all the way along the coastline in one direction to Heraklion, which is towards the airport, and in the other direction to Hosonisis, and some of the inland areas in between. So that has been really good, a great way to kind of see little villages, and then we stop and have drinks and such like. So that's been lovely. And then tomorrow we've got a car hire. I understand why people don't want to leave the resort, particularly at the moment, but I would encourage people to do. We felt completely safe when we were out and about. People are wearing masks. Like we went to the pharmacy, it's very much like a home. We wore a mask to go in, but again, if you are eating and drinking somewhere, then you don't need to do that. What's nice to see is most of the eateries and establishments are open. Nowhere that we saw was hugely busy. I have no real idea, because this hotel is full, how the rest of the island is doing, but I'm guessing we're probably at about 50%. I'm waiting for some sort of confirmation on that. So it's been quite quiet. One thing I do need to say is we've flown into Heraklion and we're about 30 minutes away. So we are on a flight path. Now, I have seen a couple of comments about this, but realistically, I don't think it's an issue. And the reason I say that is because we're that bit out, there is resorts that are right just outside Heraklion, and we visited those on our bike. And I would say you're definitely on the flight path, and the planes are really noisy, so I just wouldn't recommend it. By the time they come here, they're still quite high, so you can see them, but you can't really hear them. A little bit more today because it was a bit windier, and I think that they do something with their thrust or whatever, which is just makes them noisier. But I just don't see that as a huge issue. Well, it hasn't been an issue for us as well, but we are a bit of a family of plane spotters, so that might be why. So that's pretty much it. But what I would say is that if you are thinking about travelling, I would say Crete or Greece in general is a good option, though I do fully appreciate, whilst the FCO is saying we can travel, for Wales and Scotland they're saying that's not possible at the moment. But they do seem to have COVID under control here, and there does seem to be a good balance between the experience and also keeping you safe. So as long as that travel corridor remains open, then I would certainly recommend it. The weather has been very hot. It's been perhaps a little bit too hot. But they said about mid-30s. Cooler today because we've got a bit of wind, which I've really enjoyed. So if I was to come back, I'd probably look coming back probably late September, early October. But most of the hotels here are only open sort of May till October. It's quite a short season, but let me tell you, Crete is beautiful in those winter months. A lot of things I wanted to do on this trip, like walking the gorge and such like, it's just too hot for that. So I would definitely consider coming back at a different time of year. Anyway, that is pretty much, we've had quite a few of you watching today, which is lovely, and I know a lot of you follow up, but that's pretty much it for now. If you've got any questions about Crete or travelling in general, or of course about Stella Island where I am now, then by all means message me, and thank you so much for joining me on a beautiful and sunny Sunday afternoon. You take care, and bye for now.